Coach, last year with the number one overall pick, you said you wanted a player who can step in right away, start, and contribute, and you got that in Joe Burrow. With the player you select at 5, what are your expectations?
Same thing. We feel like we're going to get a premier player that can come in and really help us win immediately.
Is the team's draft board already finalized, or are you still having ongoing conversations?
I think it'll be finalized by Thursday night. We'll use every second that we're allotted. Still have good conversations.
Coach, when you look at the activity from the end of last season through now, a lot going on, players you've retained, players that have moved on, free agents. Are you right where you want to be with the activity, or has it exceeded your expectations?
I think we're right along where we want to be, supplemented with this draft for certain. This will be an exciting couple of days for us when it comes up because, really excited to see what we add to our team. But we put ourselves in a really good position with where our roster is at right now, and that's a credit to Duke and his staff. And so we feel good where we're at leading into this draft.
Thank you.
Zach, when you look at the tape of Jamar Chase, kind of what jumps out at you?
He's a premier receiver in this draft. He does a lot of things really well. And, he certainly, when you watch the tape in 2019, it's fun to watch Joe play again because that's the most recent tape you're watching. But tremendous player, and it's obvious why he's put himself in the conversation to be a high pick.
Is his connection to Joe a big factor, Zach?
No, it's one of the things that you weigh in. It's certainly we take in a lot of factors on, their production on the field, their character, their football IQ, just what they bring to our locker room and what they bring to our team as a whole. Relationship with the quarterback, that certainly doesn't hurt, but that's just one of the many things that we weigh in.
When you look at some of the success you had in the middle rounds of last year's draft, are there any lessons you take with you heading into this year?
No lessons that jump out to me, but I do think our scouting department is very thorough with their approach. That's why I'm not being sarcastic necessarily, but you've got till Thursday night to get it all sorted out. But they've done work over the course of this year, really the past 2 years, on a lot of these guys. And the coaches, started in January trying to get up to speed. But so you just get a chance to talk it all through, and then that's what leads towards landing guys that you really like in the third, fourth, fifth, sixth rounds. And it's been a fun process going through with our scouting department. They're very thorough. They give you great information, and then ultimately we can make really good decisions on days 2 and day 3.
Coach, is this too early for teams to start dialogue in terms of, oh, hey, we'll trade back if you give us this, that, and the other thing? I mean, last year you had the first pick of the draft. I mean, probably had a lot of early activity. Is it too early this year with the 5th pick, or is it about the same, or is it different? How's it gone so far?
I think San Francisco made the trade in March, so that's the soonest it really started, I would imagine. It'll go through Thursday night, as you would guess.
Zach, how much do you have to look at other teams and try to pick what their tendencies are? Obviously, what Atlanta does at 4, if they even keep the pick, affects what you do at 5. How do you go about that, and how much do you have to research what you think other teams might do?
Well, when you're at 5, you just got to have 5 players that you really like and are comfortable taking. Certainly, that's part of the process that we meet through is what are the different scenarios. There's tons of scenarios that can unfold before you, after you, all those things. And, and then the team needs really, I think, to speak more to that, Gary, is second, third round when you got picks in front of you and you're trying to decipher what teams may be taking and what are their needs and what player may fall to you. Those are a lot of those conversations that factor into place. It does feel different than when we picked Jonah at 11, 2 years ago, and we have the 5th pick. There is more less guesswork, I guess you should say, on what players will likely be available there at 5 than having to go through and make sure you rank those top 10 players. But I like the position we're in, and we feel good about it.
Coach, I'm sure you're aware of plenty of the debates that have been had about the 5th pick outside of Paul Brown Stadium. What is it like behind the closed doors and I guess debating the options at number 5?
Well, we talk through all the pros and cons of all the players that will be available to us and which one fits our team, which one's going to help us win. We make sure everyone's opinion is heard and we can thoroughly go through it The debate is really left for the fans and the media. That's the fun thing about people's passion for the team and for the NFL in general and the draft. And it's really turned into a really cool production where everybody's involved. Everybody feels involved. Everybody who's a fan of the league feels like they have an opinion on the matter, which is great. That's why we're here, and that's why we coach the sport and play the sport. And but we've had thorough dialogue and all the guys that are available and feel good about what we'll end up selecting on Thursday.
Coach, along those lines, what would you say to someone, and there's obviously been opinions all over, like you said, what would you say to those that say it would be irresponsible of the organization to not take an offensive lineman at 5, given what happened to Joe Burrow last year?
Well, we're going to help our team win with whoever we take, and everyone is entitled to their opinion. And I'm thankful that I don't have to answer to everyone's opinion, because I'd be here all day, because everyone's got one and it's fun, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we're feel like we're really at a great addition to our team on Thursday night.
Zach, outside of QB, what do you think is the toughest position to accurately predict translation from college to the NFL these days?
That's a really good question. I don't think I have a great answer for you right now. Probably the most difficult to predict is those bigger guys, just because they can face a real difference in competition on either side of the ball. That's probably the most difficult to come into the NFL, and I'm talking offensive line, defensive line, tight ends, even, somewhere up front, I think would have the biggest challenge.
Coach, along those same lines that Paul asked, what is the biggest difference this year in this draft, given the protocols, given the opt-outs? What's the biggest difference or the hardest thing to determine in this year's draft compared to last year?
Well, just the high number of players that didn't play last year for a number of reasons, and the medical stuff that comes with that. The lack of a true combine this year, and those are the challenges that everybody faces. There's 32 teams all in the same boat, so it's nothing to complain about. It's the difference in this year and years past. And that's, guys opted out for a variety of reasons. As you hear all their stories one by one, in some instances, you can't fault a guy for the information they had at the time, and they did it, and they felt like that was the best decision for them. And a lot of guys will probably be high picks that decided not to play last year.
Zach, last year we used to ask you about guys not getting targets in certain games, and you said usually it's a byproduct of the offense. So I was kind of curious, do you believe in the concept of in the way that you guys build your scheme and kind of the way the football's going? Do you believe in the concept of having a true wide receiver 1, or is that kind of not really a thing given the way that y'all run offense?
Yeah, we don't look at it that way. We don't look at a receiver 1, receiver 2. It's more that you got 2 outside receivers generally and a slot receiver. The way we formation things, oftentimes, that slot receiver can end up as an outside receiver and vice versa with motions and just the ways that you utilize some of your formations. So I don't get too caught up in those receiver 1, receiver 2s. You do want a guy that can threaten the defense vertically, and you do want a guy that when the game's on the line and you're going to get a one-on-one, can go win that, and you have that expectation. Those are the things that you really want as a part of your offense.
Coach, can you give us your evaluation of Penei Sewell and the big offensive lineman?
Sure. I went out there with Duke and we went to that pro day. Big, athletic, powerful, can do a lot of things really well. Had a good workout, and certainly you can see why he's put himself in a position to be a top pick in the draft.
When you personally attend a pro day, Zach, what are you looking to get out of it?
Well, this year, sometimes it was the first time you got to see a player in I don't know how many months, 18, 19 months maybe. And so it's a chance to get eyes on a guy that you haven't seen in a long time. Obviously, we get Zoom calls, we get the video of all the pro days and all that stuff. But I just find it's fun. I enjoy getting out there and getting a chance to see the prospects in person. And so really just, it's all information you're going to get. But hey, I got the day I can go out there and spin it and see a guy with my own 2 eyes and visit with the coaches, visit with people around the facility. Same things your scouts have done over and over. But sometimes it doesn't hurt to go try to get that last little bit of information and talk in person with some people. And I've always enjoyed doing that.
When you're evaluating skill players, and sometimes linemen, I guess too, I mean, based on the system that they're running, a receiver may be a great receiver. He's open all the time. Quarterback can't get him the football. Quarterback may be a great player. He doesn't have any receivers that are getting open, can't get him the football. I mean, and sometimes the scheme doesn't translate to what you're doing. So what is your basis? I mean, when you're trying to project if a guy can translate, is it just all physical stuff that you evaluate and don't even put all that other stuff into the equation?
No, you factor it all in. And I would just say the benefit of the top, the kind of the general consensus on top 10 picks in this draft, you get to see these guys do everything, and so there's really no stone unturned there. You feel like you've seen the evidence on tape, whether it was this year or the year before, or some years, both years combined. You see the pro days. So we feel like we get good information on all the guys. And Dave, to answer your question, it all gets factored into the equation. If you don't see a guy do something on tape, then you try to find creative ways to do that. Usually that would have been in an individual workout. In years past, we weren't allowed to do that this year. That's why you went to the pro day and you try to get your coaches involved. Frank Pollock was involved in a lot of offensive line pro days this year, so that he could run some of the drills and get to see the things that he wanted to see. He utilized the Zoom interviews to try to get that information as well, to see what their football IQ is and how they process things. And so again, we utilize every tool available to us. And I think our scouts and our coaches have done a great job of that.
When you look at the type of offensive lineman you could add at any point in the draft, how much of a factor to scheme player do you feel like you can take any offensive lineman and then later make him work in your scheme?
There's certainly a balance there. There's guys that maybe don't fit entirely what you want to do. I wouldn't say that there's a big bag of those guys. There's not many of them, but some guys for one reason or another might be a great player on another team that doesn't necessarily fit exactly how we want to play. But again, I wouldn't say that there's a big range of those guys.
Zac, obviously a lot's been made about how well Burrow and Chase play well in LSU. When you're looking at how that connection may translate in the NFL, how much stock do you put into that, and how do you kind of assess, okay, this is how they look there, but we need to figure out how they're going to gauge how they're going to look in the NFL?
Well, it's not a negative, that's for sure. You get a chance to see, and LSU in particular, they've had a lot of players come out the last 2 years, and some of them didn't play this year, some of them did, but you get a chance to see an offense that is very similar to a lot of pro systems. And so there's not a lot of guesswork in terms of how they're going to translate, whether it's receiver, tight end, running back, offensive lineman, quarterback. There's not a lot of questions that you're going to have. And there's a lot of teams like that in college football. LSU is just one of them.
Is it not only the scheme that they ran, but the people they executed it against? Like, receivers working against SEC corners that were high draft picks in the first round, and they run sophisticated schemes and all that sort of thing. Is that all part of the evaluation as well in translation?
Yeah, you certainly get a chance to go right at the matchups maybe that intrigue you the most against guys that you see playing at this level on the other side of the ball. Those are always things that you take into the equation. Hey, let's go watch this tackle against this defensive end, or vice versa, or receivers versus DBs. And you try to find those matchups that'll be most similar to what they're going to face in this league, and see how much that helps you with your evaluation.
Coach, thinking about draft night for just a second, you're a family man, and you make that phone call and a guy's family is forever changed. In that moment for you, is there a part of you just really feels good for that player?
Yeah, you get a wide range of emotions from the players that you call. Some of them are very businesslike, professional, and that's just kind of how they approach things. Other guys, the moment gets the best of them, and that's a good thing. It's life-changing for them. So sometimes you don't take the silence as, oh, he doesn't want to be a Bengal. The silence means he's having a hard time articulating in words what it means to him. And so it's really cool. And that was one of the neat things about last year. You got a chance to see almost everybody at their homes, do that. That was really cool on the coaching side and on the playing side. But it's a moment that I don't take lightly when you deliver that news to somebody, and look forward to doing it again this weekend.
Thank you.
Zac, if you had to put a weight on the Senior Bowl, especially with the players opting out and having less contact with players, and I know you go there and you have some, observation of that, what weight would you put on that, especially if a guy played in it and you're choosing between a couple of guys and they get more information by having seen them in the Senior Bowl?
I have a difficult time putting a percentage on it. I think it's another resource that you can use or you don't, one way or the other. But I enjoy going down there with our coordinators and our scouting department. and seeing these guys. And this year, you got a chance to interview all of them. So we got a chance to spend, I think it was 15 minutes with every player that was down there. So it's a good starting point, to start your winter, your spring off the right way in January, getting a chance to visit with all those guys and get a first impression on them before you really dig in on the coaching side. Our scouts have done it, but on the coaching side of what these players' tapes look like. So I enjoy the process, but to answer your question, Gary, it's just another tool. Sometimes you get a chance to see in person how they practice, how they interact with the coaches, how they break the huddle, how many guys get corrected, from one play to the next, because you can watch the coaches and see their interaction with those guys. But you don't hold it against somebody, I guess, if they don't have that tape available. It's just another resource for us.
Hey, Zac, 3 years in now as a head coach, and now your third draft. Is this when this staff's thumbprint really starts to take shape on this football team? You guys have had a few drafts now, and this is your third one. Is this when you start to feel like this is really becoming your team?
Well, we certainly have a full grasp of our team, and not that we haven't in years past, but we've coached all these guys for 2 years, 1 year. Really got a chance to do a lot of the legwork leading up to the draft and free agency on guys that we want to add to our roster. And so it is exciting to go into year 3 with players that you have a high comfort level with. And there is an urgency. There's always been an urgency for day one for us to add great players and have success on the field immediately. And that's our plan this year. But feel really good about where our roster's at, the character of the guys, the talent level of the guys. It'll be really fun to get these guys back on the field and start getting to work.
Coach, of all the tools that you're talking about, evaluating guys and all the different things you can go to and see them, get hands on them, all that thing, is the primary thing still the tape? The eye in the sky don't lie. I mean, you throw tape on, and that's first and foremost when you're judging talent.
Yeah, because you're good at playing football. That's very important. And then from there, you supplement with, does the guy like playing football? Does the guy work at playing football? Do his teammates like being around him? So those are all the things that you research. And what's his availability going to be like? Is he a healthy guy or not? Or you have a hard time getting into the field. And so, again, that's the fun part of the process. Again, just one more time that I think our scouting department does a great job of giving us all those answers before you make an educated decision on who you're going to take. But ultimately, Dave, to answer that question, yes, it does matter what they put on tape and how they play in games.
2 more minutes.
Zac, how hard is it to judge how well or how much these guys do like playing football?
It can be tricky. That's why you got to ask the right people. If you got good people, at the school or teammates that have been around them. But that's one of the things you always get to dig into. These guys are oftentimes great interviewers. They've been prepped really well. So you got to factor through that sometimes, but you can see that if you watch a game tape, watch a game that their team's not winning, and things are really hard and the circumstances look very bleak for them. How are they playing? That's one good way. There's a myriad of ways that you can approach that with guys, but that's a pretty easy one right there.
Zac, seems like a lot of the good wide receivers. Seems like a lot of the good wide receivers in the draft are on the small side, both in terms of height and weight. How big of a factor is that for you? And do you think that's changing in football?
I don't see it changing. I do think that maybe there are more slot or inside receivers in this draft than maybe other years. It's hard for me to say that. It's kind of a loose observation. And then you just assess, how does this fit your team? What are our needs at that position? And how do these guys factor in? And every receiver is not for you. We may love a guy that the Packers don't like, and the Packers may love a guy that we don't like, just because of the structure of our offense, the structure of our receiver room, our quarterback's play style. So there's a lot of different factors where teams may value guys differently. And we certainly evaluate the receivers as how they fit us and rank them that way.
Zac, with Gio no longer on the roster, how does that affect the running back room, and kind of what are you looking for out of Samaje or Joe or whoever to kind of fill that void with Bernard gone now?
Yeah, we're anticipating guys really coming on, and Samaje has earned that. I thought Samaje was impressive in his opportunities last year. He's a good fit for what we want to do. He's smart. He's dependable. He's a good leader, a good veteran. So happy that we have him back in the fold, and he'll play more of a role for us this year. And Trevion's got to continue to come along well. And we got Jock Patrick as well, a guy that showed well in the opportunities he got in the preseason. We carried him on the practice squad. And just like any position, if the value's there in the draft or where you like a guy, and then you make that addition to the room, but that remains to be seen how that'll shake out.
One more question.
Zac, since you coach there yourself, and since we won't hear a lot, may not hear any of the names on day one, and won't hear a lot from the national broadcast, your evaluation of the Bearcats that figure to be drafted, Hudson, Wiggins, McKinney, Forrest, what you saw?
Yeah, good group. You know, they've done a really good job there. Coach Fickle and his entire staff of developing these guys, getting the most out of them, getting them prepared to play at this level. I think, you know, now and the years forward, there's going to be a lot of Cincinnati Bearcats that are going to be in the draft, hearing their names called. And this is a strong group from these guys, and I think it's going to continue to be strong in years forward. But yeah, impressive group. They've done a great job developing these guys, and these guys all show the capability to be good players in this league.